This boy has only one skill called Revive that allows him to come back to life once after death. To everyone around him, it seems like a cruel joke. And when during one dungeon raid, Chrome joins a party of adventurers, he is treated as nothing more than a pack mule, carrying supplies. The party mocks him relentlessly, calling him useless and questioning why he even bothers trying. The party's mockery is interrupted when a group of monsters ambushes them. In the chaos, party leader shoves Chrome into the pit of bugbears, using him as a distraction bait to secure his own escape. Left alone, Chrome fights desperately, but honestly he has no chance. The bugbears just tear him apart. This scene would make even Hannibal the Cannibal blush. But after he kicked the bucket, Chrome's skill activates. He opens his eyes, disoriented but alive. Relief turns to horror when he sees his reflection. He has been revived, but not as a human. His body is now that of a skeleton. He is no longer Chrome the Adventurer, but Chrome the White, a lowly undead creature. Despair threatens to consume him as he examines his weak, powerless form. For a moment he considers giving up, but then he remembers his sister. Despite her abandonment, he still cares for her deeply. He recalls the vow he made to protect her no matter what. That promise reignites his determination. If monsters can evolve by leveling up, then so can he. Chrome resolves to grow stronger, reclaim his humanity, and surpass his former self. He sets his sights on achieving the impossible, becoming an S-rank adventurer. Using his human intelligence, Chrome devises clever tactics to outsmart his enemies. His first victory comes when he defeats a higher-level goblin by playing dead, earning enough experience to jump from level 1 to level 3. It is a small victory, but it marks the beginning of something extraordinary. Chrome's determination and ingenuity set him apart. Though he starts as a weak skeleton, he is ready to defy all odds, rise from the ashes, and carve a path to greatness. The world has no idea what's coming, but one thing is certain. Chrome's journey is just beginning. After defeating all the weaker enemies in the dungeon, Chrome is left with opponents far stronger than himself. Despite the bleak situation, he remains determined. As a skeleton, he doesn't need to eat or sleep, giving him an edge in endurance. He has been in the dungeon for so long that he has lost track of time. Occasionally, he wonders if his sister even knows what has become of him, but he quickly pushes aside these thoughts, redirecting his focus toward gaining XP and growing stronger. His next target is a level 7 Red-Eye Wolf. Though the odds are stacked against him, Chrome feels a spark of confidence in his abilities and decides to rely on his old trick, playing dead. It's a simple plan, perhaps anticlimactic, but effective. After observing the wolf for some time, he sets up a trap using his bag as bait. He positions the trap near the edge of a cliff, intending to use the terrain to his advantage. When the wolf approaches the bait, Chrome springs into action. He attacks swiftly, driving the wolf toward the cliff. With a final push and a stab, he sends the creature plummeting. Though the wolf resists, it ultimately succumbs to its injuries. Gravity might have been his savior this time, but how long can his luck hold out? Following this hard-fought victory, Chrome gains 2 levels, bringing him to level 5. This milestone unlocks the potential for his evolution. After some hesitation, he embraces the transformation. However, instead of regaining his humanity, he evolves into a ghoul, a far cry from the human form he longs for. Initially disheartened, Chrome soon realizes the advantages of his new form. As a ghoul, he gains the powerful ability of regeneration and sharp, deadly claws. While it isn't the evolution he dreamed of, he feels a surge of joy at having skin and blood once again. Examining his updated stats, he discovers that the next evolution level cap is 20. The possibility of becoming more human reignites his determination. With renewed resolve, Chrome sets his sights on escaping the dungeon and continuing his journey toward reclaiming his humanity. The joy of Chrome's evolution is short-lived as another monster soon appears, a giant rat at level 5, the same level as Chrome. The battle is intense, with the rat proving to be a formidable opponent. However, Chrome ultimately triumphs, leveling up to level 6. It is during this fight that Chrome tests his regeneration ability for the first time. The results are nothing short of miraculous. A near-fatal wound on his torso heals completely, leaving him in awe of his new form. Being a ghoul is undeniably a step up from being a skeleton. Yet, it comes with a drawback. He now has a stomach and must eat to survive. With no other options, Chrome reluctantly turns to the giant rat's carcass. The act is unpleasant, but survival takes precedence over pride, something that Bear Grylls agrees with wholeheartedly. Furthermore, over the next few days, Chrome pushes himself relentlessly, defeating stronger enemies and steadily gaining experience. His efforts culminate in a hard-fought battle against an orc, which brings him to level 14. This victory places him tantalizingly close to his next evolution. After the battle, memories of his younger sister, Kalmea, surface. Chrome recalls how much he adored her despite their strained relationship. Kalmea had grown distant after unlocking her ice magic skill, her talent overshadowing Chrome's perceived weakness as an adventurer. Over time, her mockery and cold demeanor drove a wedge between them. She had even urged him to quit adventuring altogether. Eventually, the siblings grew apart, speaking only rarely. Now Chrome wonders if Kalmea even knows what has become of him, or if she even cares. He reflects bitterly on how his current appearance as a ghoul would only lead to his execution if discovered. As if summoned by his thoughts, a group of adventurers enters the dungeon. To his shock, among them is Kalmea. Chrome watches from the shadows, eavesdropping on their conversation. His sister appears lively and carefree, seemingly unaffected by his disappearance. But Chrome's attempt at stealth falters when he accidentally makes a noise, drawing the adventurers' attention. Kalmea reacts immediately, unleashing her ice magic at the source of the sound. The adventurers dismiss Chrome as a weak monster, unworthy of their time. However, Kalmea doesn't share their indifference. Her icy resolve makes it clear Chrome is about to face her wrath, and she isn't holding back. Not only are the adventurers all far higher level than Chrome, but his sister, Kalmea, is among them. Once his beloved sibling, she has now grown into a prodigy, admired even by the most seasoned adventurers. Her presence is a terrible omen. To make matters worse, she's at level 18, far beyond anything Chrome could hope to contend with in his current state. Unlike most monsters, whose instinct would be to fight, Chrome's first thought is to escape. He observes the adventurers' movements, searching for an opening. Spotting one, he hurls a stone to distract the nearest adventurer. The ploy works, and Chrome dashes away, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and the group. But his relief is short-lived. A swift and skilled swordswoman intercepts him. Her blade strikes true, piercing his side. Chrome grits his teeth through the pain, using her attack to his advantage. He grabs the embedded weapon, twists it from her grasp, and hurls it into the dungeon wall. For a fleeting moment, it seems like he might have a chance. Then, the real threat steps forward. Kalma, her ice magic surging with power, casts a spell that stops Chrome in his tracks. His body is in tatters, completely immobile. As he lies there subdued, his mind races. He feels the crushing weight of his helplessness, outmatched and unable to fight back. Even his regeneration, slow and insufficient, can't save him at this moment. As Kalmea prepares her ultimate skill and send Chrome into the Shadow Realm, his thoughts spiral. Memories of his past, his struggles, and the cruel twists of fate that have led him here flood his mind. But the most painful thought of all is this. His own sister, unaware of his true identity, is about to end his life. As the final moments draw near, Chrome struggles to find any way to escape. Desperation sets in, and in a fleeting attempt he mutters his sister's name, barely but enough for her to recognize it. This small act of defiance causes her to miss her target. It's enough of a distraction to buy Chrome the precious time he needs to regenerate from his injuries. But it's not just his recovery that surprises everyone, it's his monstrous form. His terrifying appearance sends Kalmea into a state of fear, and with no hesitation, Chrome books it into the dungeon, putting the others in the dust. While the others are disappointed in Kalmea for missing her shot, she senses something deeper at play. This monster, who not only uttered her name but also outsmarted them at every turn, is no ordinary threat. There's more to this creature than meets the eye. After narrowly escaping, Chrome makes a decision. He follows Kalmea and her party, ensuring her safe exit from the dungeon. The circumstances may not be ideal, but Chrome is just grateful to have found his sister after all this time. He's determined to keep a close watch on her, moving cautiously as he tailors his approach. As the party ventures deeper into the dungeon, they come across the gruesome sight of several adventurers' corpses. The sight sends a chill through the group. Despite their protests and concerns about leaving the dungeon, Kalmea refuses, insisting she knows what she's doing. But her confidence proves to be misplaced. Moments later, the group is ambushed by a towering level 22 ogre. This monster is not only far stronger than them, but it's also faster and far larger, just better. Chrome, ever the strategist, quickly deduces that such a high-level monster should only exist deeper within the dungeon. Its presence so close to the surface can only mean one thing. A dungeon disaster has occurred. The danger has escalated, and the stakes have never been higher. After a moment of contemplation, Chrome decides to stay hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to intervene. The party, on the other hand, is woefully outmatched by the ogre. They're tossed around like ragdolls, each of their attacks met with swift and brutal counters. The ogre fights with the precision and skill of a seasoned UFC fighter, effortlessly dodging, blocking, and retaliating. Every strike from the adventurers seems to have little to no effect, and even Kalmea's arrows barely manage to pierce its thick skin. In the heat of battle, Kalmea quickly formulates a plan. She orders the other two party members to act as distractions, keeping the ogre occupied while she charges up her ultimate attack. But unbeknownst to her, the two have other ideas. Behind her back, they strike a secretive deal, planning to abandon her when the time is right. After a brief back and forth, the two party members use their skills to escape, leaving Kalmea to bear the full brunt of the ogre's fury. Despite the odds, Kalmea manages to charge up her attack and launches it with all her might. But the ogre is too fast. He evades most of the blast, losing one of his limbs in the process. It's a significant blow, but not enough to stop him. With a final devastating swing of his massive club, the ogre knocks Kalmea unconscious. Chrome, in all his monstrous ghoul form, steps in to intervene. Despite his massive disadvantage in terms of level, Chrome's intervention evens the odds. The ogre, now missing a limb, is no longer the unstoppable force it once was. Chrome may be weaker, but his determination and the ogre's injury make this battle far from over. The tides have turned, and the fight is far from finished. After dodging one of the ogre's powerful swings, Chrome scrambles to think of a way to subdue the beast. But before he can come up with a plan, the ogre lands a crushing blow that breaks his arm. With no other option, Chrome decides to take the fight head-on, pushing through the pain. With a stroke of luck and sheer determination, Chrome narrowly avoids another swing of the ogre's bat. Slowly, he begins to recognize the monster's attack patterns, and with each dodge, he gets closer to finding an opening. As he learns the ogre's rhythm, he manages to land a few solid punches, knocking several of its teeth loose. But the battle takes a turn when the ogre retaliates by biting off one of Chrome's arms. In that moment, Chrome seizes the opportunity. The ogre, overconfident from its earlier victories, makes the fatal mistake of leaving its throat exposed. Chrome, despite his injuries, sinks his teeth into the ogre's neck, delivering the final blow. The ogre collapses, and Chrome stands victorious, albeit battered and bruised. As the dust settles, Chrome levels up to 18, a significant boost from the fight. He takes a moment to regenerate his arm and tend to his other injuries before turning his attention to Kalmia. He knows she's still unconscious, and without hesitation, he carefully carries her to safety. Once he finds a secure spot, Chrome decides to leave her a message. He knows that Kalmia will never stop putting herself in danger if she doesn't learn from this experience. So, he drops her off in front of a group of adventurers, making it appear as though he's about to attack her. The adventurers quickly rush to her aid, chasing him away. But what they don't realize is that the ghoul they've chased off is actually her older brother, Chrome. When Kalmia wakes up, the adventurers inform her that she was nearly attacked by a ghoul, but deep down, she knows the truth. That ghoul must have been Chrome, the same brother who always came to her rescue. As the adventurers hand her a weapon they found near her, she recognizes a message engraved on the weapon. It was none other than Chrome. He reminds her that he will return for her, but for now, she must wait. The message brings tears to her eyes, but also a sense of relief. In the end, her brother reached her, and that's all that matters. Meanwhile, Chrome retreats deeper into the dungeon, driven by a single goal: to evolve back into a human. He hopes that one day, he'll be able to meet Kalmia again, not as a monster, but as her brother once more. Chrome wastes no time after ensuring Kalmia's safety, diving straight into grinding for XP. To survive and grow stronger, he devours the monsters he slays, a grim necessity that he tells himself will all be worth it in the end. Now at level 18, Chrome begins to wonder if his next evolution will bring him closer to becoming human again. Perhaps it might even allow him to visit human civilization without being hunted. However, reaching the next milestone won't be easy. With his level so high, he needs to defeat monsters stronger than himself to gain the last 2 levels required for evolution. Just as he thinks he can relax, a level 21 gargoyle catches him lacking from behind, nearly catching him off guard. Chrome barely manages to fend off the initial attack, but his relief is short-lived. The gargoyle's stone body is impervious to most of his attacks, and to make matters worse, it breathes fire. This deadly combination makes the fight exponentially harder. Seeing no way to win, Chrome makes the tough decision to flee deeper into the dungeon. Even as he counters fiercely, Chrome is shocked to see that his attacks leave no mark on the gargoyle. This realization solidifies his escape plan. Eventually, he finds himself cornered at the edge of a cliff with no other way out. Thinking quickly, Chrome devises a trick. He pretends to leap off the cliff but instead clings to the wall just below the edge, holding on for dear life. As the gargoyle peers over, Chrome uses gravity to his advantage. He leaps from his position, landing directly on top of the monster. This time, he relies on his tried-and-true fangs, biting down with all his strength against the gargoyle's tough exterior. The impact of the ambush sends the gargoyle crashing face-first into the ground. The force of the landing proves too much even for its stone body, and the monster is defeated. Chrome, battered but victorious, feels the surge of power as he levels up to 20 and unlocks his next evolution. Without hesitation, Chrome initiates his evolution. The transformation is unlike anything he's experienced before. His new form is that of a shapeshifter, tall, with razor-sharp claws and a menacing mask that radiates power. The air around him feels charged with energy, and it's clear this new evolution is a force to be reckoned with. Chrome knows this is just the beginning. With his newfound strength, he sets his sights on what lies ahead, determined to keep pushing forward, closer to his ultimate goal of reclaiming his humanity. As the reality of his transformation sinks in, Chrome realizes his new appearance is still far from ideal. This evolution isn't without its perks. Shapeshifters possess a unique ability called Masquerade, which allows them to imitate human appearances for a limited time, depending on their MP. To Chrome's relief, he retains all his previous abilities, and this new skill only adds to his already formidable arsenal. With regeneration and the raw strength of the shapeshifter, eager to test Masquerade, Chrome activates the ability. To his surprise, he transforms into a version of his former human self. While his hair is now stark white and his skin pale, it's leagues better than the monstrous visage of the shapeshifter. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, Chrome sees a reflection he can almost recognize. What's more, the transformation restores his ability to speak. However, the ability comes at a cost. Masquerade drains 1 MP every 10 minutes. Given his current MP pool, Chrome can only maintain his human form for up to 4 hours. provided he doesn't use regeneration during that time. Despite its limitations, Masquerade gives him a glimmer of hope. It's not much, but it's a step closer to reclaiming his humanity. As Chrome reflects on his progress, he pieces together a troubling realization. The presence of high-level monsters like the gargoyle in lower-level areas can only mean one thing: a dungeon disaster. Somewhere nearby, a boss monster must have broken free, disrupting the natural order of the dungeon. Before he can act on this revelation, his thoughts are interrupted by the screeches of an approaching horde. A gargoyle descends upon him, its fury unmistakable. It seems it's out for revenge after Chrome's earlier battle with one of their own. At first, Chrome struggles against its overwhelming strength. But when he reverts to his shapeshifter form, the tide of battle shifts. With his enhanced strength and regeneration, he tears through the gargoyle, his monstrous claws ripping through its stone-like body. However, his victory is short-lived. Reinforcements arrive, and the sheer number of enemies forces Chrome to make a quick decision. Knowing he's outmatched, he absolutely books it deeper into the dungeon, searching for a safe place to regroup. As he escapes, Chrome's resolve hardens. With his newfound power and the determination to reclaim his humanity, he vows to get stronger at any cost. The path ahead is treacherous, but Chrome knows that with every step, he's inching closer to the ultimate goal, evolving back into a human and reclaiming the life he lost. As Chrome barely manages to escape the gargoyles, he takes a break to relax for the moment. He is determined to get out of the dungeon no matter what. However, just as he thinks he's caught a lucky break, a group of adventurers arrives in the area. Among them are Frank Fry, an honorable swordsman, Guido Gilraid, a fierce archer, and the ever-elegant Shelley Schultz, whose parents, it seems, didn't have the most imaginative naming skills. Jokes aside, the party looks formidable. Though their levels are slightly lower than Chrome's, their coordination and teamwork as a full party make them a dangerous threat. Chrome knows that even with his shapeshifter abilities, a head-on fight with them would likely end badly. The adventurers are here for one reason: to take down the dungeon boss and clear the disaster. Shelley, in particular, is deeply invested in this mission. Dungeon disasters have affected her life personally, and her high morals and kind nature drive her to help others. Everything seems to be going smoothly for Chrome as he keeps a safe distance, observing the group. But then, he makes a critical mistake. He leaves his monstrous dogs exposed for just a moment too long. Guido, ever the sharp-eyed rogue, spots them immediately and alerts the party. The adventurers waste no time squaring up, weapons drawn, ready to take down the monster in their midst. Chrome's mind races as he realizes he's outnumbered and outmatched. But in the chaos, he activates Masquerade, shifting into his human form just in time. The sudden transformation catches the party off guard. They lower their weapons slightly, apologizing for the misunderstanding, but their wariness doesn't fade. Chrome's pale skin, white hair, and overall sketchy appearance make it clear he's no ordinary adventurer. Shelley, however, is different. Her kind nature allows her to see something in Chrome that the others don't. She senses a flicker of humanity within him, something that makes her hesitate. While the rest of the party keeps their guard up, Shelley offers Chrome a reassuring smile, trying to ease the tension. Despite her warmth, Chrome knows he's not out of danger. The others are sharp enough to realize that Chrome is on edge, ready to run or fight at the slightest provocation. The silence stretches until Shelley steps forward, breaking the stalemate. Her soft voice cuts through the tension as she approaches Chrome with cautious kindness. She reminds her party that Chrome looks harmless and even offers him their aid if needed. At this moment, Chrome looks every bit like a homeless wanderer, battered and worn. Shelley's kindness catches him off guard, and for a fleeting moment, he considers accepting her offer. But his instincts take over. Using the distraction, he slips away, vanishing into the shadows before anyone can stop him. Frank advises the group to let Chrome go as he could be a bandit. It would be better not to get involved. Furthermore, Shelley seems disappointed but doesn't push back. Unbeknownst to her, her small act of kindness spared the group from a potential confrontation that could have turned ugly. With the encounter behind them, the adventurers refocus on their mission of defeating the dungeon boss and claiming the loot. Shelley, in particular, is determined. The dungeon disaster stirs painful memories from her past, fueling her resolve to see it through. Meanwhile, Chrome retreats to safety, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Shelley's kindness lingers in his thoughts, tugging at his heartstrings. Since his resurrection, this is the first time anyone has treated him with even a shred of humanity. The warmth of her gesture feels foreign yet comforting. For a brief moment, he considers helping them, but the thought is quickly dismissed. He knows the truth. If they were to see his true form, they would turn on him without hesitation. As Chrome broods over his encounter, the adventurers press on and eventually reach the heart of the dungeon. There, they come face to face with the dungeon boss, the Gargoyle King. Standing at a monstrous level 30, the Gargoyle King towers over them, its stone body radiating a menacing aura. The adventurers realize, with a sinking feeling, that this foe is far stronger than they anticipated. The battle for survival is about to begin, and both Chrome and the adventurers are about to face challenges that will test their limits. For Chrome, the question remains, will he continue to watch from the shadows, or will he risk everything to intervene? As chaos ensues, the party scrambles into formation. Frank takes the front line, Shelly circles around for a flank, and Guido stays at range, launching arrows. Despite their relentless attacks, the boss remains unscathed, its tough skin almost impenetrable. But their troubles don't end there. The Gargoyle King charges up a devastating inferno flare. The fiery blast burns Frank's armor clean off and severely scorches his arms. Even so, he manages to deliver a fierce blow to the boss's head, creating an opening for Guido to shoot an arrow into its eye. The attack only enrages the boss further. It retaliates with brutal force, knocking Frank unconscious with a fierce blow. The archer and Shelly suffer the same fate as they are tossed around like rag dolls and easily defeated. The Gargoyle King prepares to land the final blow to finish what it started. Just as it's about to strike, Chrome intervenes, stopping the attack in its tracks. The battlefield shifts. The two monsters stand face to face, and only one can come out victorious. Right before the chaos unfolded, we see Chrome debating whether he should really let the party challenge the final boss, knowing full well it would probably devour them. In the end, the humanity within him won out, and he decided to protect the adventurers no matter the cost. The very reason he became an adventurer in the first place was to protect humans from monsters, and now, even as a monster himself, that resolve burned stronger than ever. With that determination, Chrome arrived just in time to save the party from the final blow, but the fight was only beginning. Despite being at a massive disadvantage, Chrome quickly assesses the situation and identifies the Gargoyle King's weakness being its eyes. The battle rages on, and Chrome is caught by a vicious attack that slices his torso open. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he manages to land a direct hit on the boss's eye, partially staggering it. However, the Gargoyle King retaliates by activating its Flare Vortex ability, igniting itself in flames. The intense heat makes it impossible for Chrome to land another blow, forcing him to keep his distance. Just when it seems like the boss is about to finish him off, Chrome unlocks a new ability, the power to transform parts of his body into his shapeshifter form. With his monstrous hand, he stops the boss's flaming sword mid-swing and uses the opportunity to stab the Gargoyle King directly in the eye. The attack lands, but the boss still isn't finished. Despite its injuries, the Gargoyle King overpowers Chrome, pushing him back. Both are now at their limits, and the next move will decide the victor. Chrome struggles to manage the burning damage, relying on his regeneration ability to stay in the fight, though the mana drain is becoming unbearable. On the other hand, the Gargoyle King is also at its breaking point. Both combatants prepare for the decisive blow, knowing only one of them will walk away alive. As the situation grows dire, Guido and Shelly decide to do everything they can to help. Guido manages a lucky shot, firing an arrow at the ceiling above the boss. The impact causes a chunk of rocks to fall, landing directly on the Gargoyle King's head, cracking it like an egg. This gives Chrome the opening he desperately needs. Wasting no time, he drives his blade deep into the monster's eye. After a brief struggle, the Gargoyle King breaks free, tossing Chrome and his sword aside in the process. Left with no other option, Chrome resorts to his partial transformation, using his monstrous strength to deliver a devastating punch. The attack lands with enough force to finally subdue the Gargoyle King, securing their victory. However, in the process, he also sustained quite a few injuries which needed a lot of mana to regenerate. With the boss defeated, Chrome levels up 4 times, reaching level 24. The dungeon disaster is thwarted and peace is restored. Fortunately for Chrome, the Gargoyle King's massive body had obscured the party's view, so they didn't witness his partial transformation. However, Chrome has little time to celebrate. The battle has drained him, leaving him with only 2 MP, just under 20 minutes before his masquerade ability expires. As Shelly approaches to express her gratitude, Chrome knows he can't stay. With his mana running dangerously low, he makes a hasty exit. Sigma rule number 1. Show up, defeat the boss, refuse to elaborate, and leave. The party is left stunned by his sudden departure. Not only did Chrome leave without a word, but he also abandoned the boss crystal, a valuable reward that could have earned him a fortune. This only heightens Guido's suspicions. Frank brushes off Guido's doubts. Furthermore, he points out that Chrome saved their lives and suggests they focus on the silver lining, the free loot. After a brief rest, the party decides to take the boss crystal back to the guild as proof of their victory. They also agree to repay Chrome if they ever cross paths with him again. For Shelly, this is more than a promise. She's determined to meet her mysterious savior once more. Meanwhile, Chrome barely avoids detection as he retreats. Thanks to his major level up, his MP pool has increased, allowing him to maintain Masquerade for 6 hours a day. With this newfound flexibility, Chrome resolves to return to human society and test the waters. 6 hours might be just enough time to blend in and avoid suspicion, giving him a chance to reclaim a semblance of his old life. As the party leaves the dungeon and delivers the news of the boss's defeat to the guild, they are met with skepticism. The townsfolk struggle to believe that an unknown adventurer could single-handedly defeat a dungeon boss. After some back and forth about Chrome's appearance, Frank hands the boss's magic stone to the guild leader, Gars. The undeniable proof confirms that the boss was defeated and the dungeon cleared. This revelation sparks curiosity and speculation among the townsfolk. Who was this mysterious adventurer? If he possessed such immense power, surely he would be famous. Rumors about Chrome spread like wildfire, fueled in no small part by Shelley, who eagerly added colorful details to the story. While the town celebrates the dungeon's clearance, Kalmia sees this as an opportunity to continue searching for her brother. Despite her outward demeanor, she cares for him deeply and hasn't given up hope. Once the excitement dies down, the party receives their reward for clearing the dungeon. Frank reminds them that most of the money rightfully belongs to Chrome, but since he's nowhere to be found, they should use it for now and return it if they ever meet him again. Shelley is hesitant at first, but eventually agrees, as she has something important she wants to do with the money. Frank, being the gigachad that he is, gives Shelley a little extra from his share. Grateful, Shelley thanks the group and leaves for her hometown. After she departs, Frank reveals her intentions. She plans to donate all of her earnings to the orphanage that raised her. However, her efforts may be in vain as her hometown, the ruined city of Oddfield, has been plagued by a dungeon disaster for a long time. The city has descended into chaos, becoming infamous for its lawlessness and despair. Meanwhile, Chrome reaches a similar conclusion. Oddfield's reputation as a chaotic, lawless place makes it the perfect destination for someone like him to blend in. If he's going to reunite with Kalmia and continue his quest to grow stronger, Oddfield is the next step. With his sights set on his next evolution and his resolve unshaken, Chrome embarks on his journey to Oddfield, unaware that fate is aligning his path with Shelley's once again. After sneaking around for a while, Chrome finally reaches Oddfield. The sight of a bustling human society breathes new life into him. It's been a long time since he's seen such normalcy. However, he doesn't let himself get too comfortable. People still cast wary glances his way, and the ominous mask permanently glued to his face doesn't help his case. With confidence, Chrome takes all the magic stones he had collected from the dungeon and heads to the local guild to sell them. To his dismay, they fetch only 500 gold, a mere tenth of what he could have earned in the capital. When he protests, the guild owner reminds him that they don't ask questions when buying items, especially from someone as suspicious-looking as Chrome. Most of the stones sold in Oddfield are stolen, and Chrome doesn't look like an exception. Swallowing his pride, Chrome takes the money and leaves. On his way out, an unknown warrior stops him, demanding he hand over the cash. This man, Jeff, is a member of the criminal organization that runs the town, the Evil Dragons. Chrome, unimpressed, dismisses him with ease, bruising Jeff's pride in the process. As a result, Jeff becomes furious and vows for revenge. When Jeff attempts to retaliate, Chrome swiftly disarms him, kicking away his sword before fleeing the scene, not giving Jeff a chance to recover. After the ordeal, Chrome spends nearly all his money on basic supplies. A rusty dagger for 240 gold, a shabby robe for 60 gold, and a room at an inn for 110 gold per night. Left with only a handful of coins, Chrome realizes he needs to act quickly and heads toward the dungeons to earn more. Meanwhile, Shelley arrives at the orphanage and hands over all her money to the owner, urging him to use it wisely. She also advises him to leave Oddfield with the children and move to the capital, where they'll be safer. The owner agrees, but reminds her that relocating everyone would be costly, and staying in Oddfield might be their only realistic option for now. After a heartfelt chat, Shelley leaves the orphanage. Elsewhere, Chrome roams the streets, trying to figure out how to gather information. As he wanders, he unexpectedly crosses paths with Shelley once again. His heart skips a beat and panic sets in. The last encounter with her was already nerve-wracking, and this chance meeting was bound to stir up more trouble. After the brief reunion, Chrome doesn't bother with pleasantries and immediately books it to find a way out. However, Shelley isn't about to let her savior vanish without a proper thank you. Determined, she chases after him. Chrome, unfortunately, finds himself cornered in a dead-end alley. With no choice but to confront her, he considers escaping using his shapeshifter powers, but as he fumbles the bag as he trips and falls, leaving him in an awkward position. Shelley arrives just in time to catch him lacking. She apologizes for startling him and earnestly thanks him for saving her party. Curious, she asks for his name. This time, Chrome finally speaks, introducing himself as Chrome Clank. The two exchange words and Shelley explains why she's in Oddfield. She reveals that she came to donate money to the orphanage where she grew up. Shelley shares a bit about the town's tragic history. Once a prosperous place, Oddfield fell into ruin after the dungeon disaster struck. To make matters worse, the tyrants of the Evil Dragon faction exploited the chaos, oppressing the townsfolk and turning the city into a lawless wasteland. Shelley confides that her dream is to rid the town of both the monsters and the tyrants, restoring it to its former glory. As Shelley speaks of the orphanage, the story shifts to the children and their caretaker. The owner is deeply devoted to the children, who, in turn, share Shelley's dream of saving the city. Some of the children even possess remarkable skills that could prove useful in the future. But their peace is shattered when a group of menacing figures barges into the orphanage. Their presence is unmistakable. They are enforcers from the Evil Dragon faction, the same tyrants who have been tormenting the townsfolk for years. The enforcers demand that the orphanage hand over the children to be used as slaves, citing a shortage of manpower. They coldly warn the caretaker that refusal will result in his death, right in front of the children he holds so dear. The situation is grim, with no favorable outcome in sight. The lives of the children, the caretaker, and the orphanage itself hang in the balance. As the enforcers grow more hostile, the orphanage owner is left with no choice. Falling to his knees, he begs for forgiveness and pleads to be taken as a slave in place of the children. One of the braver kids, unable to stand by any longer, tries to use their skill to fight back. But the enforcers effortlessly swat it away like a fly, mocking the child's futile attempt. Even the owner grabs a metal spear in desperation, but his attack is just as ineffective. In response, the enforcers begin beating him mercilessly in front of the terrified children. Meanwhile, Shelly continues her conversation with Chrome, thanking him again for saving her party. She offers him all the money she has on hand, promising to repay the rest later. As they talk, a frantic child from the orphanage rushes toward them, tearfully explaining the atrocities being committed by the enforcers. Hearing this strikes a chord with Chrome. Despite his attempts to stay out of trouble, he can't ignore the plight of the children and the owner's unwavering resolve. With a determined look, he decides to go with Shelly to the orphanage. Back at the orphanage, the enforcers show no signs of relenting. The owner, battered and bloodied, refuses to yield. The senior officer of the group gives him an ultimatum: either convince the children to surrender or die. Despite the threat, the owner remains steadfast. Glaring at the enforcers through swollen eyes, he declares that they can do their worst. If this is his end, at least the children will know he loved them until his dying breath. Just as the officer raises his weapon to deliver the final blow, Chrome and Shelly arrive. The sight of the two interrupts the chaos, and the room falls silent for a brief moment. The enforcers, sensing a challenge, square up against the newcomers, while Chrome and Shelly prepare themselves for what promises to be a heated and decisive battle. As the battle begins, Jeff squares up against Chrome, smirking with confidence. He mocks Chrome's frail appearance, dismissing him as weak and unworthy of his attention. However, Chrome wastes no time proving him wrong. With a swift swing of his sword, he forces Jeff to block hastily. The sheer force of the strike leaves Jeff struggling to maintain his balance. Chrome follows up with a precise stab that narrowly grazes Jeff's armor. Despite Jeff stepping back to reduce the impact, the blow still leaves him reeling. Just as Chrome prepares to finish him off, another enforcer, Rido, intervenes with a sudden lunge. Their swords clash, and Chrome immediately senses that Rido is no ordinary opponent. Rido's skill and strength surpass those of Jeff, making him a formidable match, especially against Chrome's human form. Meanwhile, Jeff, unwilling to let his pride be shattered, tries to sneak behind Chrome for a backstab, but Shelly steps in, intercepting him with her blade. Though Jeff has a higher level, Shelly's refined skills and determination allow her to hold her ground. Their clash intensifies as Shelly matches his every move, proving she's no easy target. Back on the front line, Rido warns Chrome to step aside, promising that if he surrenders now, they'll overlook his defiance. But Chrome doesn't flinch. He reminds them that he's nothing like them, and that he will end their tyranny no matter what it takes. Furthermore, Rido's expression hardens as his patience wears thin. He vows to make him eat his words as he channels his magic. Lightning crackles along Rido's blade as he activates his lightning sword skill, infusing his weapon with electric energy. The air around them hums with power, and sparks dance dangerously close to Chrome. This just made things a whole lot harder for our boy Chrome. As Rido charges at Chrome with his lightning-infused sword, Chrome has no choice but to retreat. He recognizes the immense power behind the strike, and realizes that attempting to block it would shatter his weapon instantly. Meanwhile, Shelly continues her duel with Jeff. Despite the level gap, her skill and determination keep her evenly matched. However, she notices Rido's relentless assault on Chrome and realizes that if she doesn't intervene soon, things could take a dire turn for her savior. Rido hunts Chrome like a wolf hungry for some tender meat. His movements are calculated and merciless. Chrome, cornered and desperate, debates whether to drop his masquerade skill and fight in his much stronger monster form. But the thought of terrifying the children watching the battle and potentially losing their trust makes him hesitate. Rido, sensing Chrome's indecision, seizes the moment and unleashes a devastating combination. His lightning strike skill grazes Chrome's arm, sending jolts of electricity through his body and causing massive damage. Before Chrome can recover, Rido follows up with a sword strike that shatters Chrome's blade and pierces his torso. Though the wound is severe, Chrome narrowly avoids a fatal hit to his vital organs. Pinned against the wall with nowhere to run, it seems the fight is all but over. But Chrome isn't done yet. Summoning every ounce of his wit, he uses a secret trick. He transforms the area around the sword's impact into his monster form. The transformation traps the blade within his flesh, locking it in place and leaving Rido momentarily exposed. Without missing a beat, Chrome uses his regeneration ability to seal the wound around the embedded sword, ensuring it doesn't budge. Then, using his partial transformation, he shifts his hands into monstrous claws and delivers a devastating uppercut to Rido. The force of the blow sends Rido flying backward, crashing into the ground like most of Mike Tyson's opponents. Furthermore, the sheer impact leaves him dazed, and Chrome stands tall, breathing heavily, but victorious. For a moment, the battlefield falls silent as everyone processes what just happened. Chrome, bloodied but unyielding, prepares for the next move. Rido's defeat leaves everyone flabbergasted. Even his partner in crime, Jeff, is stunned by the unexpected outcome. Left in a precarious 2v1 situation, Jeff decides not to let pride cloud his judgment. He makes the logical choice to retreat. Spewing a poisonous mist as a smokescreen, Jeff ensures his escape through a nearby church window. Before disappearing, he issues a dire warning, saying that he will have his revenge no matter what. As the mist clears, Chrome breathes a sigh of relief. He managed to win the fight without revealing his monster form or anyone noticing his partially transformed hands. After tending to the injured church owner, the man thanks both Chrome and Shelley profusely for saving their lives and protecting the children. Shelley, still worried about the possibility of retaliation, urges the owner to take the children and move to the capital. However, the owner hesitates, explaining that moving so many kids to the capital would be prohibitively expensive and nearly impossible given their limited resources. After the discussion, Chrome and Shelley leave the church. As they walk, their conversation turns to the Hole of Disaster. Curious, Chrome asks Shelley for more details. She explains that it's an incredibly dangerous dungeon, infamous for its lethality. Even a royal capital party of 20 seasoned adventurers was wiped out without a trace when they attempted to clear it. This catastrophic failure led the capital to abandon the town entirely, deeming it not worth the cost in resources and manpower. Hearing this, Chrome reflects on his original goal, leveling up by defeating monsters in the Hole of Disaster. However, witnessing the atrocities committed by the evil dragons firsthand has changed his priorities. Now he's determined to rid the town of both the monsters and the tyrants oppressing its people. If he can clear the dungeon, he reasons, the capital would have no choice but to send reinforcements. With the dungeon threat eliminated, the evil dragons would lose their excuse to remain, and the town could finally return to normal. Chrome clenches his fists, his resolve solidified. The path ahead is treacherous, but if he succeeds, he can save this town, and perhaps find his own redemption in the process. Meanwhile, Jeff makes his way to the evil dragon's leader, Galord. Whining like a scolded child, he recounts the events of the church battle. However, Galord doesn't take kindly to excuses. With a cold glare, he questions why Jeff fled the moment Rido was defeated, instead of standing his ground. Galord's imposing presence sends shivers down Jeff's spine. Known as the Monster of Oddfield, Galord is a force of nature, an overpowered beast that even the boldest warriors dare not cross. After thoroughly terrifying Jeff, Galord issues a stern warning, saying that his head will be on a pike if he ever tarnishes their name again. Shifting his focus, Galord turns to his trusted subordinate, Canella, and asks for a status update. Canella informs him of a more pressing issue. Knights from the kingdom have been spotted in Oddfield. Their movements suggest they might be conducting a sting operation, which could spell trouble for the evil dragon's hold over the town. Elsewhere, Chrome begins his investigation of the Hole of Disaster. As he surveys the area, his attention is drawn to a commotion nearby, a monster attacking innocent civilians. Just as Chrome prepares to intervene, an adventurer steps in, wielding holy power to drive the monster back with ease. Though her holy infused attacks are effective, the adventurer struggles to land a decisive blow. Recognizing her predicament, Chrome steps in and offers his assistance. The adventurer, sensing his strength, gladly accepts his help. Together, they face the monster. The adventurer demonstrates remarkable skill, infusing her sword with holy magic, an ability far superior to Rido's lightning infusion when dealing with monsters. The holy power overwhelms the creature, and with a single, precise strike, she slices it in half. Chrome exhales in relief, thankful that he didn't have to resort to his monster form. However, the adventurer's sharp instincts catch something unusual about him. She senses a dark, malevolent power lurking within Chrome. We guys call it intrusive thoughts. However, in her case, her suspicion piqued, she decides to test him. With a calm but firm demeanor, she prepares to use her skill to determine whether Chrome is truly human or something else entirely. As the townsfolk surrounded the adventurers, expressing their deep gratitude for saving their lives, the mood shifted from tension to relief. A young child stepped forward, her eyes wide with admiration, thanking them with a beaming smile. It seemed as though the danger had passed, and the town could finally breathe easy. But the moment of peace was fleeting. The dying monster, with a final burst of desperation, gathered its strength for one last attack. This time, its target was the child, standing too close, unaware of the impending danger. The adventurer, still caught up in the celebration, failed to notice the monster's final move. Chrome, however, saw it instantly. His heart raced as he realized the child's life was in immediate danger. In his human form, he knew he couldn't reach her in time. His thoughts spiraled as the fear of revealing his true nature to the townsfolk gripped him. They might fear him, hate him, or worse, see him as one of the very monsters he sought to destroy. But at that moment, memories of his parents, taken from him by monsters, flooded his mind. He couldn't let another innocent suffer the same fate. His humanity, the part of him that still cared, overpowered his fear. With no time to waste, Chrome deactivated his masquerade skill, revealing his monstrous form in a flash. In a split second, he shielded the child, blocking the monster's attack just inches from her. Without hesitation, Chrome retaliated, delivering a crushing blow that sent the monster into the shadow realm. The town fell silent. The child was safe, but the relief of the moment was short-lived. The townsfolk, who had been cheering just moments before, now recoiled in horror. Gasps of fear rippled through the crowd, and whispers spread like wildfire. They were all horrified and considered him one of them. The adventurer's face darkened. Her earlier suspicions were now confirmed. She had been right all along. Chrome was no savior. He was a monster, a dangerous creature in disguise. Her hand instinctively reached for her weapon, her eyes burning with murderous intent. To her, Chrome was a threat, and she couldn't allow him to harm anyone else. For Chrome, the weight of his decision hit him like a ton of bricks. He had saved the child, but at what cost? The fear and disgust in the eyes of the townsfolk, the rejection, the horror. It was more than he had anticipated. He had acted out of a sense of duty, driven by the memories of his parents and the desire to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. But to him, it was all worth it as he was able to save a life. As the adventurer prepared to confront him, Chrome was left to face the consequences of his choice. He had saved a life, but in doing so, he had lost something else, the trust of the very people he had hoped to protect. After Chrome defeated the monster, he quickly realized the harsh truth. The townspeople, instead of being grateful, now saw him as an ally of the creature he had just slain. The adventurer, Mira, immediately recognized the threat she believed Chrome posed and wasted no time in warning the crowd. She told them that Chrome was a shapeshifter, someone dangerous and deceptive. Her warning sparked fear among the townsfolk, who, now frightened, picked up weapons to defend themselves. Seeing the situation escalate, Chrome had no choice but to flee. Even as he ran, the people threw stones and shouted insults at him, mocking him until he was out of sight. However, Mira, recognizing Chrome's power, stopped the townsfolk from pursuing him further. She understood that Chrome was no ordinary monster, and her suspicion grew that he might be a much more dangerous creature who had learned to blend in with humans. Just as Mira prepared to go after him, a young girl, whom Chrome had saved earlier, stepped forward. She reminded the crowd that Chrome had put his life on the line to protect them, especially her. The people paused, but their fear of the shapeshifter was still strong. Before Mira could act, her superior, Captain Elant, arrived and intervened. He ordered her to stand down, reminding her that they had a greater mission at hand. They couldn't afford to make enemies of the townspeople or attract the attention of the evil dragon faction. If they did, it could lead to a full-scale war. Later, in a secluded spot, Mira explained the situation to Captain Elant. He remained unshaken by her concerns, reiterating that their priority was the larger mission at hand. Some casualties were unavoidable in their line of work. Their main goal was to find the red-haired man, the one responsible for the whole of disaster. If they didn't stop him soon, the damage he could cause would be catastrophic. Meanwhile, Chrome, with no other options left, made his way to the hole of disaster. His resolve was firm. He knew that if he could evolve within the dungeon, he could become stronger and return to the capital. His ultimate goal was to reunite with his sister and rid the town of its tyrants. Back at the church, Shelley had made a similar decision. Unable to stand by any longer, she left the church with the same determination. She knew that the monsters had taken everything from her, and she couldn't allow them to continue wreaking havoc. Unknowingly, the paths of Chrome and Shelley were set to align, both determined to face the horrors within the hole of disaster and change the fate of the town. Chrome, now deeper within the hole of disaster, advanced cautiously, but with a sense of relief. In this dungeon, he didn't need to be constantly on guard as he did in the human world. The debuffs that humans typically suffered didn't affect him here, allowing him to remain in his monster form indefinitely. This gave him an edge, but it also meant that he had to rely on his instincts and abilities to navigate the unknown challenges ahead. As he pressed forward, he encountered a split in the path. With no clear direction, Chrome decided to leave it to chance. He threw his sword in the air, letting it decide the path. It might have seemed like a random decision, but in the situation, it might have saved his life. Upon stepping into the left path, Chrome immediately felt a sticky sensation around his feet. Looking down, he saw that his foot had been caught in a massive spiderweb. Before he could react, 2 demon spiders descended upon him, their eyes filled with hunger. Despite being a couple of levels lower than him, Chrome knew that taking on 2 of them at once would be dangerous, especially with their ability to coordinate their attacks. The spiders wasted no time. They launched a barrage of stones toward him, forcing Chrome to react quickly. He swung his sword to slice through the webs, but before he could fully cut them, the spiders covered his hands with more webs. His arms were immobilized, leaving him vulnerable. In this moment of peril, Chrome realized that being caught in the web could work to his advantage. He yanked at the webs, pulling the spiders closer together. They collided, momentarily disoriented. Without wasting a second, Chrome used his monstrous claws to tear into the spiders, slicing them apart with ease. The battle was quick, and though it was a relatively easy victory, it was enough to level him up to 26. However, he knew that to continue growing stronger, he would need to face foes that were far beyond his current level. Just as he thought he might catch a break, a massive presence filled the room. A giant demon spider, far larger and more menacing than the others, appeared before him. This spider was a level 37, a far more formidable opponent than anything Chrome had faced so far. In the blink of an eye, the creature lunged and pinned Chrome against the wall. The sheer force of the attack left him gasping for air, and his first instinct was to flee. But as he tried to retreat, he realized he was surrounded by its webs. The area was a spider's den, the entire space covered in thick, sticky webs. The only exit was now blocked by the giant spider. There was no way out. Chrome had no choice but to face the creature head-on. He gripped his sword tightly, bracing for the inevitable battle. This would be a fight for his life, and if he hoped to survive, he would have to use every ounce of his strength. The giant demon spider, relentless and unforgiving, wasted no time in attacking. With a charge, it shattered the walls surrounding Chrome and lunged at him with its massive claws. Despite its enormous size, Chrome's smaller frame allowed him to anticipate the spider's movements. He nimbly dodged the incoming strikes, narrowly avoiding the deadly claws. Chrome quickly assessed the situation. The spider's size might give it an advantage in terms of raw power, but he had the upper hand in close-quarters combat. If he could close the distance, he might be able to strike a decisive blow. However, before he could act on his plan, the spider revealed a new skill, blood thread. The web that emerged was no ordinary spider silk. It was infused with immense power, capable of shredding anything in its path. The moment it hit, Chrome knew he would be in serious trouble. One direct strike from this web would spell his end. The spider followed up with another attack, a barrage of webs that quickly covered the entire area, making it nearly impossible to move. Chrome found himself cornered against the wall, the sticky webs closing in. In this confined space, his large monster form became a liability. His size was no longer an asset, it was a hindrance. Realizing that he needed to change his approach, Chrome activated his masquerade skill, reverting to his human form. Now smaller and more agile, Chrome felt the difference immediately. His speed increased, and he was able to dodge the spider's attacks with greater ease. This newfound agility allowed him to get in close and land a hit, stabbing one of the spider's giant eyes. The spider howled in pain, but it wasn't done yet. In retaliation, it swung its vicious claws toward him, and Chrome barely managed to block the attack, the sheer force of the strike rattling his bones. Before he could recover, the spider used its webbing to trap him once more. In an instant, he was pulled toward the spider's gaping mouth. Chrome knew this was his last chance. As he was drawn closer, he quickly used partial transformation to turn his arm back into his monstrous form. With a sharp clawed hand, he severed his own arm, allowing him to break free from the web's grasp. This daring move gave him the opportunity he needed. With his claw now free, he lunged at the spider, landing a powerful strike that cut through its defenses. The spider, weakened and on the verge of collapse, tried to retaliate, but it was too late. Chrome delivered the finishing blow, sending the monstrous creature to the Shadow Realm. Exhausted and battered, Chrome stood victorious. The battle had been grueling, but against all odds he had triumphed. His heart raced as he realized just how close he had come to death, but he had survived. He was one step closer to his goal, but the challenges ahead would only grow more dangerous. For now, though, he allowed himself a moment of relief before pressing on deeper into the dungeon. Chrome's victory over the giant demon spider proved to be a significant turning point. Not only had he leveled up to a remarkable level 33, but his regeneration skill allowed him to reattach his severed arm, a feat that would have been impossible for most. The victory also restored his confidence, and after taking some time to rest and recover his mana, he pressed on deeper into the dungeon. He marked his path carefully, ensuring he wouldn't get lost, but the dungeon's labyrinthine nature made it difficult to stay on course. Despite this setback, he leveled up once more to level 37. However, the dungeon's challenges weren't just about monsters. Chrome's food situation was dire. He had to make do with eating the remains of the spider carcasses. It wasn't ideal, but it was sustenance. As he ate, the sound of footsteps reached his ears, alerting him immediately. The footsteps were unmistakably human, and Chrome tensed, preparing for whatever might come next. He quickly activated his masquerade skill, transforming back into his human form to blend in. The source of the footsteps soon revealed itself. It was Shelly. Chrome's heart skipped a beat. Shelly was the one person who had shown him kindness, and the sight of her in the depths of the dungeon was both a relief and a surprise. She too was on guard, preparing to use a magic stone. But when she saw Chrome sitting there, it caught them both off guard. Shelly was the first to speak, and Chrome couldn't help but ask how she had managed to make it so deep into the dungeon without so much as a scratch. She explained that she had a map, one that detailed the dungeon's monsters and paths, allowing her to take the safest routes to avoid danger. Chrome, though, had come to the dungeon with a different goal in mind, not just to level up, but to defeat the boss. He knew it would be a dangerous task, but he was determined to do it alone. He asked Shelly to leave, fearing for her safety, but she saw through his words. Shelly realized that Chrome had come to the dungeon to conquer it by himself, unwilling to risk anyone else's life. It was a suicidal mission, with little chance of success. She refused to leave, stating that she had just as much reason to kill the boss as he did. She explained that, with her knowledge of the monsters and her preparation, she could be a major asset in taking them down. She had even used the money she had taken from the church to gear up and prepare for the dungeon's challenges. Shelley revealed that she had learned from the mistakes of those who had died in the dungeon, studying the monsters' weaknesses and coming prepared to face them. She also had information about the dungeon boss, which could prove invaluable. Chrome, though still uncertain, realized that with only 9 hours left on his masquerade skill, he couldn't afford to waste time. If he wanted to clear the dungeon, he needed to act quickly, and Shelley's help might be exactly what he needed. Meanwhile, far from the dungeon, the evil dragon faction caught wind of Shelley's presence. Galord, the faction's leader, was furious. He lashed out at his subordinate, demanding to know why Shelley had made it this far into the dungeon. His subordinate believed that Shelley was doomed from the moment she entered, but Galord wasn't so sure. He suspected she might be more than just an adventurer, perhaps a knight in disguise. Galord, always cautious, ordered his subordinate to prepare for action. He knew that Shelley's presence in the dungeon could complicate things, and he couldn't afford to underestimate her. As he prepared to mobilize his forces, he steeled himself for whatever came next. With Shelley by his side, Chrome found the journey through the dungeon significantly more manageable. Her resourcefulness and knowledge of the dungeon proved invaluable. When they were surrounded by a horde of demon spiders, Shelley acted swiftly, scattering Colchi seed powder into the air. The powder blinded the spiders, creating a crucial opening for Chrome to take them down. The battle was grueling, but it paid off. Chrome not only survived the encounter but also leveled up, pushing his strength further. Shelley, holding the map, guided him through the safest paths. As they moved deeper, she couldn't help but wonder about how many lives had been lost to create the map they now relied on. Her voice carried a heavy note of sorrow. Sensing her distress, Chrome quickly reassured her. His words were simple, but they carried a conviction that lifted her spirits. He reminded her of their shared goal, to clear the dungeon and end its horrors, no matter what it took. Their resolve was soon tested when they encountered a formidable foe, an arachne, a monstrous spider with a humanoid upper body and razor-sharp claws. One jab from its claws sent Chrome crashing into a wall, a testament to its overwhelming strength. The arachne was a level 42 monster, with HP and MP far surpassing Chrome's by a landslide. Shelley quickly informed Chrome that this creature was the second strongest in the dungeon, surpassed only by the boss itself. She emphasized the importance of staying close to the monster, as its ranged attacks were deadly, and pointed out its poor visibility near its legs. Chrome took her advice to heart, targeting its legs and successfully severing several of them. Recognizing the arachne's vulnerability to fire, Shelley hurled a magic stone at the monster. The stone ignited on impact, setting the arachne ablaze and creating an opportunity for Chrome to land a devastating strike. The coordinated effort paid off, and after an intense battle, they managed to defeat the arachne with minimal injuries. The victory was rewarding. Chrome gained 2 levels, reaching level 40. However, the fight had drained his MP significantly, and he could feel his masquerade skill wearing off. Time was running out. If they wanted to clear the dungeon, they needed to face the final boss quickly. The dungeon's apex predator was the devil monkey Ouroboros, a creature that had claimed the lives of countless knights and adventurers. Ouroboros had ruled the dungeon for as long as anyone could remember, its terrifying presence a constant threat. Yet, thanks to the sacrifices of those who had come before, Shelley carried knowledge of its weaknesses, a vital edge in their fight. Meanwhile, at the dungeon's entrance, Galord and his troops prepared for an ambush. Their goal was clear: to take Shelley's head and eliminate her once and for all. What Galord didn't know, however, was that Shelley wasn't alone. By her side stood Chrome, the overpowered monster boy, ready to take on any challenge that came their way. As the final battle drew near, Shelley and Chrome huddled together to discuss their strategy for subduing the dungeon boss, Ouroboros. Shelley made it clear that she had no intention of letting Chrome do the heavy lifting. The stakes were too high. Too many people she cared about depended on her success. Chrome respected her determination, but silently worried about how they would overcome such a powerful foe. When they finally entered the boss chamber, the sheer presence of Ouroboros was overwhelming. Towering above them, the devil monkey Ouroboros was a level 52 behemoth, the most formidable opponent Chrome had ever faced. Its body radiated raw power, and its glowing red eyes seemed to pierce their very souls. Despite its strength, Ouroboros had a weakness. It was lightning fast but could only move in straight lines, relying on sheer speed and brute force to overpower its enemies. To counteract this, Chrome devised a plan. If he moved in a zigzag pattern, he could exploit this limitation and avoid its deadly direct attacks. Without hesitation, Chrome put the plan into action. As Ouroboros lunged forward to finish the job with a fierce strike, Chrome darted from side to side, narrowly evading the monster's razor-sharp claws. Each missed strike left deep gouges in the stone walls of the chamber, a testament to the creature's destructive power. After several tense moments of dodging, Chrome saw an opening. Ouroboros' claws became lodged in the wall after a poorly aimed attack, giving Chrome a chance to strike. He swung his sword with all his might, aiming for the monster's vulnerable legs. Despite the full-force attack, The blade barely grazed its thick hide, leaving Chrome stunned at its durability. Shelly, determined to contribute, leaped onto Orobas's back and plunged her weapon into its flesh. Her blade, however, failed to penetrate the skin, only further enraging the beast. Orobas let out a deafening roar, the shockwave of its fury blasting both Chrome and Shelly backward. They slammed into the ground, momentarily dazed. Chrome looked injured, which made Shelly worry. However, he calmed her down by reminding her that it was only a minor scratch and he could still fight. As Chrome regained his footing, he considered using his monstrous claws through partial transformation. His instincts told him that his claws might be the only way to inflict significant damage on Orobas. But he quickly dismissed the idea. If Shelly saw his monstrous form, even partially, it could shatter her trust in him. Worse, if he fully transformed, she might panic, and their communication, which is critical to their survival, would break down entirely. For now, Chrome resolved to rely on his human form, even if it meant pushing himself to his limits. Shelly, shaken but unyielding, stood by his side, her eyes burning with determination. Together they prepared for the next phase of their battle against Orobas, knowing that victory would demand everything they had and more. As the battle raged on, Orobas shifted its attention to Shelly, sensing her as a vulnerable target. Chrome, realizing the imminent danger, intervened just in time to shield her from a devastating blow. Even though he tries his best to divert its attention, it persists in attacking Shelly. However, Orobas paid little attention to his efforts and focused entirely on Shelly. This distraction provided Chrome with a crucial opening, and he seized the opportunity to damage the snake-like tail of the monstrous boss with a powerful swing. The pain from the attack enraged Orobas, forcing it to redirect its undivided attention to Chrome. Before the battle, Shelly and Chrome had devised that if a situation like this arose, the best course of action would be to attack its tail. Roaring furiously, the boss began preparing a deadly AoE attack, Devil's Poison Breath. The air around them grew heavy, signaling the impending release of the toxic assault. But this was exactly what Chrome and Shelly had anticipated. As Orobas opened its massive jaws to unleash the poisonous breath, Shelly hurled a pouch filled with a fine, toxic powder directly towards its mouth. The powder, a condensate of the rare parashroom, was highly potent and caused the beast to choke violently, halting its attack mid-action. The effects of the powder didn't stop there. Orobas's eyes clouded over, rendering it temporarily blind. However, the monster quickly adapted, relying on its heat detection ability to locate its prey. Anticipating this, the duo had prepared a contingency plan. Shelly activated a magic stone, which emitted intense heat, diverting Orobas's attention away from them. While the beast lunged at the decoy, Shelly darted in and struck at one of its defenseless legs. Her attack weakened the creature further, creating an opening for Chrome. Using his monstrous fangs, he tore off a chunk of flesh from his leg. With its defenses crumbling, Orobas became increasingly vulnerable. This meant that it started to go all out and its instincts took the better of him. But just as victory seemed within reach, the duo noticed something alarming. Orobas was regenerating its wounds at an astonishing rate. Its legs began to mend, and its strength surged once more. Before they could react, the boss retaliated, delivering a devastating blow that sent Chrome crashing into the ground. Despite the crushing pain, Chrome refused to give in. He knew this fight was not just about survival, but also about proving himself and protecting those who depended on him. Summoning the last of his strength, he lunged at Orobas, deflecting its next attack with a desperate swing of his sword. In a final, decisive move, Chrome drove his blade deep into the monster's chest, piercing its core. Orobas let out a deafening roar as its life force drained away. The dungeon boss had been defeated at last. Exhausted but victorious, Chrome and Shelly stood over the fallen beast. The battle was over, but the cost of their victory and the trials that lay ahead remained to be seen. After their hard-fought victory, Chrome's level surged by 7, bringing him to an impressive level 47, just 3 levels shy of his next evolution. The realization filled him with hope, as he dreamed of becoming closer to humanity and one day returning to his hometown. Shelly, too, experienced significant growth, her level jumping by 8 to reach 28. Both were exhausted but relieved, finally feeling the weight of their achievement dawned on them. The dungeon that had plagued the town for so long was no more. As the adrenaline faded, Shelly fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. The relief she felt was overwhelming, a culmination of years of fear and loss. Chrome offered her a few words of comfort. They exchanged heartfelt thanks, acknowledging that neither could have succeeded without the other. While Chrome used his regeneration skill to heal his wounds, he noticed he had 17 MP left, just enough to maintain his masquerade form for the journey back to town. Both were wary of potential dangers on their way out, but for the moment, they allowed themselves a brief respite. However, their relief was short-lived. Out of nowhere, a fiery attack blazed toward Chrome. Shelly, acting on instinct, threw herself in front of him, taking the full brunt of the assault. The impact rendered her unconscious, and Chrome caught her as she collapsed. Emerging from the shadows, the Evil Dragon faction revealed themselves, their leader, Galord, towering menacingly over the group. His presence was suffocating. Just as Shelly regained consciousness, she recognized the infamous dragon. Galord was every bit as terrifying as the dungeon boss, perhaps even more so. The faction wasted no time boasting of their cruelty. They revealed that Galord had always been capable of defeating Oribos but chose not to. Keeping the dungeon active served their twisted agenda, ensuring the town remained in fear and under their influence. Worse, the knights who had ventured into the dungeon hadn't fallen to the monsters. They were slaughtered by the evil dragon faction. The map that had guided Shelley and Chrome was also part of their ploy. It was designed to lure adventurers to their deaths, giving false hope to anyone brave enough to challenge the dungeon. This revelation shattered Shelley's spirit, leaving her vulnerable and paralyzed with despair. Galord stepped forward, his blade raised towards Shelley. Chrome, however, wasn't about to let her sacrifice be in vain. Standing between her and the dragon, he clenched his fists, his monstrous instincts urging him to fight. Despite being outmatched, Chrome knew he couldn't back down, not when so much is at stake. The battle is far from over. As the members of the evil dragon faction close in, Chrome refuses to retreat. With only a few levels standing between him and his evolution, he clings to the hope that he can still turn the tide. Memories of his past, his struggles, his growth, and the bonds he's formed ignite a fire within him. This determination fuels his resolve as he steps forward, vowing to protect Shelley at all costs. The first soldier lunges at Chrome, landing a deep cut across his torso. The pain is sharp, but it only strengthens Chrome's resolve. However, the taunts from Jeff, a particularly arrogant member of the faction, push him further. When Jeff sneers that they'll destroy the church and everyone in it after finishing them off, Chrome's anger boils over. Outnumbered and battered, the relentless attacks begin to take their toll. Each strike leaves him more bruised and bloodied, but Chrome refuses to fall. Desperation sets in, and with no other option, he activates his partial transformation skill. His hands morph into monstrous claws, and with a single devastating blow, he sends Jeff flying. Shelley, still recovering on the sidelines, watches in shock. Chrome's monstrous hands are unlike anything she's ever seen, but before she can process what's happening, Chrome presses on. He knows the cost of revealing his true nature, but the safety of Shelley and the town outweighs his fears. As the evil dragon soldiers regroup and prepare to overwhelm him, Chrome makes a fateful decision to fully transform. With a roar, he releases his masquerade skill, fully transforming into his monstrous form. His body grows, his claws sharpen, and his aura becomes terrifyingly oppressive. The first attacker who dares to strike is split in half in an instant by his fierce claws, Chrome's speed and power leaving no room for error. The rest of the faction freezes in terror, and their confidence is shattered. Even the bravest among them falters. Shelley's expression shifts from shock to horror. Her wide eyes betray her disbelief, but Chrome doesn't look back. He doesn't flinch, doesn't hesitate. His only focus is on the enemies before him. With unwavering resolve, Chrome charges forward, cutting through the ranks of the evil dragon faction. Though his monstrous form may have cost him Shelley's trust, he moves without regret, determined to end the fight and protect what he holds dear. In his monstrous form, Chrome becomes a force of nature. The arrows launched by the evil dragon faction bounce harmlessly off his hardened skin as he blitzes through their ranks with inhuman speed. Desperate to stop him, the soldiers abandon ranged attacks and rush in for close combat. However, the power gap is undeniable. Chrome, bolstered by his recent level-ups, is far stronger than before. Taking full advantage of his monstrous strength, Chrome overwhelms the soldiers. Their fear works against them, leading to hesitation and mistakes. Chrome capitalizes on their terror, intimidating them into breaking formation and exposing openings. One by one, they fall to his relentless assault like dominoes, their numbers dwindling as Chrome's levels steadily climb. As the bodies pile up, so do Chrome's gains in strength. The remaining soldiers regroup, bolstered by magical buffs from their mages. But Chrome, ever resourceful, positions himself strategically. With his enemies clustered together, the mages hesitate to unleash their full power, wary of hitting their allies. Despite his growing strength, the battle takes its toll. Chrome faces a relentless onslaught, and though he cuts through the swordsman, he sustains a devastating stab wound in the process. Furthermore, he uses the body of a fallen soldier as a shield, blocking a massive flame attack. The explosion sends a wave of heat and chaos through the battlefield, but Chrome emerges from the flames, crawling out of the smoke and fire like a demon reborn. Without missing a beat, Chrome targets the mages as they are the most ideal targets. He moves swiftly, cutting down one of them with a brutal sword slash. The remaining mages scramble to defend themselves, but their efforts are futile against Chrome's relentless advance. Finally, Chrome finds himself face to face with Galord, the strongest of the evil dragon faction. Galord's towering presence and aura of menace are enough to make even seasoned warriors falter. But Chrome doesn't waver. He has fought too hard, bled too much, and come too far to back down now. At level 49, Chrome is just a step away from his next evolution. He can feel the power coursing through him, the promise of transformation lingering just out of reach. This evolution could be the key to turning the tide against Galord and securing victory. With determination burning in his monstrous eyes, Chrome braces himself for the fight of his life. As the two monsters squared off, Galord wasted no time launching a ferocious attack. Chrome narrowly dodged the powerful chop. The sheer force of the blew him away. Galord, at level 50, had a clear advantage over Chrome, both in strength and experience. Realizing he couldn't overpower Galord directly, Chrome focused on neutralizing the axe, a weapon that tipped the scales heavily in Galord's favor. Using his last bit of mana for regeneration, Chrome baited Galord into a strike. Timing it perfectly, he lunged with his monstrous fangs, clamping down on the axe and tearing it from Galord's grasp. For a moment it seemed like Chrome had turned the tide, but Galord wasn't finished. With a sneer, he activated his pure crystallization skill, turning his hands into diamond-hard weapons. The next punch landed with devastating force, sending Chrome hurtling across the battlefield. He crashed into the dirt, his body battered and his strength fading. Galord loomed over him, a towering figure of raw power and malice. Furthermore, his strength wasn't born of privilege, but of pain and desperation. As a child, Galord had endured unimaginable abuse. His father, an alcoholic tyrant, had beaten his mother senseless, leaving her body scarred and her spirit broken. Galord himself had been a frequent target of his father's wrath, suffering beatings so severe they nearly ended his life. One night, as death loomed over him, Galord's latent power awakened. With newfound strength fueled by desperation, he killed his father in a blind rage. But the act brought no solace. His mother, instead of embracing him, called him a monster. In her eyes, he was no different from the man he had slain. The betrayal and trauma twisted Galord into the ruthless being he had become, a man who saw power as the only truth. This led to his mother receiving the same treatment as his dad. Now, in the present, Galord stood in his prime, poised to crush Chrome like a wolf devouring its prey. But Chrome wasn't ready to give up. Desperation lit a fire in his heart as he reached for a discarded sword. Summoning every ounce of his remaining strength, he hurled the weapon with deadly precision. The blade found its mark, striking Jeff, one of Galord's men, and killing him instantly. The kill pushed Chrome over the threshold, granting him enough experience to level up. The surge of energy coursed through his body as his next evolution unlocked. Without hesitation, Chrome embraced it, transforming into a monstrous doppelganger. His new form boasted a hulking physique and 4 powerful arms, each brimming with destructive potential. As the transformation completed, Chrome rose from the ground, his presence radiating newfound power. Galord's smirk faded, replaced by a glint of apprehension. The battle had just become far more interesting. A doppelganger is a terrifying monster known for its ability to manipulate illusions and prey on the minds of its victims. Its shapeshifting is so precise that it can mimic a person's appearance, voice, and even memories. With Chrome's evolution, he unlocked 2 powerful new skills, Dream Eater and Phantom. As Galord realized the gravity of the situation, he charged forward, determined to end the fight before Chrome could exploit his newfound abilities. However, Chrome effortlessly blocked the attack. His monstrous strength is now unmatched. Without hesitation, he activated Dream Eater, a skill that drained Galord's MP and converted it into his own, giving Chrome a seemingly endless reservoir of energy. This put him at a massive advantage in all the fights to come. The remaining Evil Dragon members, desperate to help their leader, rushed to attack Chrome, but they found themselves ensnared in his illusionary trap, a phantom skill reminiscent of a genjutsu. Their attacks, meant for Chrome, instead struck Galord, leaving him open to Chrome's counterattack. Seizing the opportunity, Chrome closed the distance and landed a devastating blow on Galord. Before Galord could fully process what was happening, Chrome's Dream Eater skill took hold, delving deep into his memories. Chrome assumed the form of Galord's abusive father, embodying the very source of his lifelong trauma. As Galord stared in shock, the illusion of his father began to berate him, voicing harsh words of disappointment. Galord's confidence wavered as the memories of his past resurfaced. Enraged, Galord swung a punch at Chrome, only for Chrome to transform into the image of his mother. The illusion twisted the knife deeper, showing Galord's mother disowning him for his actions. Each word, each image, broke Galord's psyche further, until he was fully immersed in the dreamscape Chrome had crafted. In this nightmare, Galord found himself as a child again, helpless and vulnerable. His mother, driven by grief and rage, slowly dismembered him, blaming him for the sins of his father's death. The pain felt real, and the fear consumed him entirely. Meanwhile, in the real world, Chrome was systematically dismantling Galord's body. Every strike was calculated, exploiting the openings created by Galord's mental breakdown. With each blow, Chrome weakened him further, until Galord was nothing more than a broken shell, both physically and mentally. As Galord's life slipped away, Chrome stood victorious, his monstrous form looming over the battlefield. The Evil Dragon faction had been annihilated, and Chrome's terrifying new powers had proven their worth. But as he gazed at the destruction around him, a lingering thought gnawed at the back of his mind. How much of his humanity was left? After defeating Galord, Chrome's level skyrocketed to 51, marking his most significant evolution yet. The hard-fought battle had not only granted him new strength, but also a unique advantage. His new skills allowed him to integrate seamlessly into human society without revealing his monstrous nature. As the remaining members of the Evil Dragon faction fled in terror, Chrome took a moment to absorb the weight of his accomplishments. The dungeon disaster was resolved, and the evil dragons who had plagued the town for so long were no more. But amidst the victory, his gaze fell on Shelley. Her horrified expression pierced through him like a blade. Chrome knew what it meant. She had seen his true form. He believed there was no place for him in her life now, and perhaps no place for him among humans at all. The thought of retreating from human society entirely began to settle in his mind. However, Shelley, despite her injuries and fear, surprised him. She mustered her strength, stood up, and walked toward him. Without hesitation, she wrapped her arms around him in a heartfelt embrace. She admitted that she was scared, but she couldn't bear to embrace Chrome as he looked so lonely. Her words stunned Chrome. Moreover, she added that Chrome is a good person. Furthermore, he came to this dungeon alone, so nobody else would have to face the danger. She vowed to stay by his side no matter what. Before she could finish, her body gave out from exhaustion, and she fainted in his arms. Chrome's thoughts raced as he held her. He considered using Dream Eater to erase her memories of him. She was so pure, so innocent. He didn't want to become a source of trauma for her. But as he looked at her peaceful face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Shelley was the only person who had ever looked past his monstrous exterior and seen him for who he truly was. She was the only one who considered him human. When Shelley woke up, she was surrounded by concerned adventurers. As she sifted through her memories, she recalled everything about Chrome, his kindness, his strength, and even his monstrous form. Chrome had spared her memories, unwilling to rob her of the truth or the bond they had formed. At the same time, from a distance, Chrome watched over the town. He decided it was best to keep his interactions with people to a minimum, for their sake as much as his own. Yet, he couldn't bring himself to disappear completely, not while Shelley, the one person who truly saw him, remained in his life. 2 days after the dungeon was cleared, the people of Oddfield found themselves grappling with an unfamiliar feeling: freedom. The once oppressive shadow of the dungeon was gone, and the town buzzed with activity. News of the dungeon's defeat spread like wildfire, even reaching the capital. In response, the royal court dispatched a feudal lord to oversee Oddfield's development and ensure its newfound prosperity. Shelley, meanwhile, was hailed as a hero. Songs were sung in her name, and the townsfolk showered her with praise. However, she quickly corrected the narrative, explaining that she had been hard-carried by someone else, a mysterious figure who had done the heavy lifting. Despite her insistence, no one knew the identity of her savior, leaving the town's gratitude squarely on her shoulders. The dungeon's defeat brought many blessings. Oddfield no longer had to fear the monsters lurking nearby, and the remnants of the evil dragon faction had fled the town entirely. Life was beginning to feel normal again. As Shelley wandered through the guild, her thoughts drifted to Chrome. She wondered where he had gone. Her eyes caught a hooded figure sitting at a table in the local pub, right next to a wanted poster of Chrome. Heart racing, she rushed over, only to find it was a random stranger. Disappointed, she shared her thoughts, saying that the person reminded him of someone important to her. Unbeknownst to her, the hooded figure leaving the pub was Chrome himself. Using his phantom skill, he altered his appearance, hiding his true identity. Her words struck a chord deep within him, giving him the resolve to keep moving forward. Chrome silently said his goodbyes to the town and to Shelley. This adventure had not only made him stronger, but also reminded him of his humanity, something he thought he had lost long ago. With renewed determination, Chrome set his sights on his hometown, Rockdat. He had avoided it for a long time, but now, with his evolved powers and the courage he'd gained from Shelley's acceptance, he was ready to confront his past and reunite with his sister Kalmia. His new evolution, which doubled his MP and allowed him to stay in human form indefinitely, paired with Dream Eater and Phantom, meant he could blend into society without fear of discovery. Meanwhile, in the shadows, a new threat was brewing. A mysterious figure met with the newly arrived feudal lord, claiming to control dungeon disasters and wield the power of monsters. This man, a member of the infamous Claws of Devon, an ancient research and alchemy group, revealed that his organization had spent centuries perfecting the art of harnessing dungeon energy. Now they could manipulate dungeons at will. The feudal lord, intrigued by the possibilities, asked whether this power could be used against the royal family. The alchemist assured him that with his help, the lord could reshape the kingdom and leave an indelible mark on history. The lord, impressed by the alchemist's ambition, called him the devil. Furthermore, the alchemist explained that harnessing dungeon power required several conditions, including an abundance of unclean mana. To prove his capabilities, he proposed a demonstration, creating a dungeon disaster in Rockdat. Rockdat, a prosperous trade hub, was the perfect target. If a dungeon calamity struck there, all trade would be diverted to the neighboring town of Hadwin, which was conveniently under the lord's control. The plan promised both wealth and power for the feudal lord. As the countdown to disaster began, Chrome unknowingly moved closer to his greatest challenge yet. Would he reach Rockdat in time to prevent the calamity, or would this be the moment he rose as the hero of the town? The clock was ticking, and the stakes had never been higher. Chrome continues his journey toward Rockdat, cutting through hordes of high-leveled monsters with ease. Despite their strength, they pose little challenge to him, and their defeat offers only minimal XP. The battles serve a purpose though, as Chrome uses Dream Eater to replenish his MP. He quickly realizes the skill's limitations. It only works if the target remains stationary, making it ineffective against agile opponents. To sustain himself, he consumes the monsters he slays, steadily closing the distance to his destination. Elsewhere, the two adventurers responsible for Chrome's death face the consequences of their actions. Kalmia's efforts to expose their betrayal have left their reputation in ruins. Once respected adventurers, they now struggle to find work or allies willing to associate with them. Arthur, unable to cope with the guilt, deflects responsibility and channels his anger toward Kalmia, blaming her for their downfall. His growing resentment fuels a dangerous determination to retaliate. In Rockdat, preparations for disaster are underway. The new dungeon boss. Moreover, a white-haired woman oversees the operation under the red-haired alchemist's orders. She presents a magic stone to the dungeon's boss, subduing it with fear. The artifact's power forces the creature into compliance, solidifying their control over the dungeon. The alchemist's plan to unleash chaos in Rockdat nears completion, with fear as their weapon and destruction as their goal. As Chrome reaches the outskirts of Rockdat, the air grows heavy with unease. Each step brings him closer to the confrontation he has long awaited. The stakes are higher than ever, and the battle for Rockdat looms on the horizon. Upon reaching Rockdat, Chrome meticulously considers every potential scenario that could lead to trouble and devises countermeasures for them. Confident in his skills and efficient use of MP, he determines that he is prepared for whatever challenges may arise. Meanwhile, Kalmia is deeply engrossed in training her ice magic. Her focus is on achieving precision and accuracy, pushing herself to her limits. Watching her through the window, Chrome feels a mix of pride and concern, noting that she is once again overworking herself. When she finishes her training, Chrome hesitates to approach, still unable to summon the courage to face her. As Kalmia picks up the dagger Chrome had left her, she becomes visibly emotional. Holding the blade close, she silently vows to save her brother no matter the cost. Hearing this is all Chrome needs to break through his hesitation. He bursts through the window, catching Kalmia by surprise. Her joy at seeing him quickly turns to anger as she scolds him for making her worry. However, when Chrome admits his mistake, her frustration melts away, and she collapses into tears, overwhelmed by relief. They sit together and discuss his situation. Chrome avoids mentioning the details of his death, instead focusing on his current mission. He explains that he will need to leave again soon, driven by his responsibility to protect her and honor their parents' memory. Resolving to shield Kalmia from danger, he silently vows to return after his next evolution, stronger than ever, to bring the monsters to their knees. After leaving the house, Chrome activates his illusion skill, rendering himself invisible. As he moves through the town, he unexpectedly bumps into Arthur. The encounter surprises them both, neither anticipating the meeting. On the other hand, the guard tower at the outskirts of Rockdat detects a massive mana signal on their sensor, an unmistakable sign of danger. A dungeon boss is rapidly approaching Rockdat, its presence sending shockwaves through the mana network. Before the guard can alert the town, the white-haired woman appears behind the scout, silencing him before he can sound the alarm. The looming threat grows closer, setting the stage for chaos. The guard, against all odds, manages to stab the white-haired woman through her torso. However, the wound appears to have no effect, as she immediately regenerates, hinting at a powerful healing skill. She reveals, almost mockingly, that she is the one responsible for bringing the monsters to Rockdat. Despite his best efforts to resist, the guard is ultimately overpowered, and she lands a devastating slash across his back. Adding insult to injury, she admits she allowed him to stab her earlier simply because she enjoyed it. Her twisted amusement becomes apparent as she toys with him, prolonging his suffering. She repeatedly stabs him, only to heal him moments later, using the endless cycle of pain to extract information. The mental and physical torment leaves the guard on the brink of losing his sanity. Eventually, growing bored, the white-haired woman abandons him, leaving him broken as she moves on to execute her plans elsewhere. Meanwhile, Chrome finds himself face-to-face with Arthur, an encounter long in the making. Arthur, visibly shaken, struggles to process the situation. Chrome's appearance is a stark contrast to the man Arthur once knew, stronger, darker, and exuding an air of otherworldly power. The weight of guilt and sleepless nights is evident on Arthur's face. He looks almost like a living ghost. As the tension mounts, Arthur's desperation takes hold. Convinced that Chrome's return is a manifestation of his sins, he calls Chrome a monster, his voice trembling with fear and anger. Drawing his sword, Arthur lunges at Chrome, determined to destroy the ghost that has been haunting him. The clash between the two is inevitable, with unresolved emotions fueling the confrontation. It doesn't take much for Chrome to recognize that Arthur's sanity has crumbled, and seeing Chrome alive has pushed him over the edge. While dodging Arthur's erratic attacks, Chrome analyzes the situation, searching for a way to neutralize the conflict without causing unnecessary harm. Using the back of his sword, Chrome delivers a calculated push, sending Arthur stumbling backward. The ease of this maneuver forces Arthur to acknowledge the vast difference in their abilities, further fueling his desperation. Arthur, determined to prove himself, ignites his sword with his flame skill and charges once more. However, Chrome sidesteps the attack with minimal effort, leaving Arthur sprawled on the ground, his sword flung far from his grasp. Seeing no other option, Chrome considers using his memory-altering skill to pacify Arthur, but his thoughts are interrupted by distant roars. The sound is unmistakable. Monsters have breached the town. The chaos triggers memories of the past. A haunting echo of the night Chrome lost his parents to a similar siege. Determined not to let history repeat itself, he steels his resolve. Amid the growing tension, Chrome and Arthur encounter the white-haired woman responsible for the attack. Arthur, desperate and oblivious to her true nature, pleads for her assistance. Chrome's instincts scream otherwise, and he warns Arthur, but the damage is already done. With a chilling smile, the woman reveals her true intentions. In one swift motion, she stabs Arthur through the back, mirroring the fate of the scout from earlier. Her confession is as twisted as her actions. She orchestrated the attack and wanted full credit for the destruction. As she moves to finish Arthur off, Chrome intervenes, blocking her strike and forcing her to engage. The two lock swords, the clash reverberating with the weight of their power. Chrome, fueled by rage and determination, squares off against the woman in a battle where only one can emerge victorious. As Chrome clashes swords with the white-haired criminal, Arthur lies on the ground, his mind spiraling. He can't comprehend why Chrome, the very person he betrayed, would save him. Yet, instead of gratitude, Arthur succumbs to fear, begging for his life. His fragmented mind reveals a man broken beyond repair, a shadow of who he once was. Meanwhile, Chrome quickly assesses his opponent, realizing she surpasses even Galord in strength and skill, making her his most formidable adversary yet. Despite the overwhelming challenge, Chrome finds an opening and lands a few precise strikes. To his dismay, she heals instantly, wielding a skill eerily similar to his own. Time weighs heavily on Chrome as he becomes aware of the chaos unfolding in the town. Every second spent fighting her means more lives lost to the dungeon boss. Determining that Phantom is ineffective against someone devoid of fear, Chrome opts for a different approach. He decides to use Soul Eater, aiming to delve into her mind and uncover her weaknesses. The battle takes a sharp turn when she delivers a brutal slash, disarming Chrome and sending his sword flying. Yet, this apparent setback is part of his plan. In an instant, he activates his partial transformation, slashing her with his claws, while simultaneously initiating Soul Eater. As Chrome enters her mind, he finds himself in a desolate white abyss, a stark contrast to the vivid townscape of Galord's memories. This emptiness reflects her lack of humanity. Searching through the void, Chrome eventually encounters her, but she is consumed by grotesque memories. He watches as she obsessively sews together lifeless rats, experimenting without remorse. The sheer absence of empathy and her twisted actions leave Chrome shaken. The experience drains Chrome, forcing him to confront the reality of her deeply fractured mind. After coming out of her memories, he barely has time to react before she capitalizes on his moment of weakness, delivering a vicious slash across his chest. Seeing no other way to end the battle, Chrome decides to undo his masquerade skill, revealing his monstrous form. However, Arthur slowly regains his rationality and begins to understand the gravity of the situation. He realizes the woman must be stopped at all costs. Using his flame skill, he imbues a rock with fire and hurls it at her, catching her lacking. The attack lands, momentarily disrupting her focus. Infuriated, she diverts her attention to Arthur and retaliates by stabbing him in the arm. Chrome seizes the moment and steps in after undoing his masquerade skill. His immense reach and overwhelming strength turn the tide of the battle. He blocks her attacks effortlessly, forcing her to retreat. The woman quickly recognizes the danger. Not only did she recognize that the monster was none other than Chome, but he was a force to be reckoned with. Chrome, with the intelligence of a human and the body of a monster, is a lethal combination. Desperate, she activates her ace skill, Immortal Demon. This ability allows her to heal almost any wound while enhancing her strength exponentially. However, the cost is severe. It consumes her lifespan with each passing second. Seems like she is finally going all out as Chrome is much stronger than she had anticipated. However, even with this boost, she finds herself outmatched. Chrome's monstrous strength and precision make her attacks futile. When she lunges with her scythe, Chrome catches the weapon with his hardened skin, rendering it ineffective. Moreover, he retaliates with a devastating slash, though her healing negates the damage instantly. Furthermore, Chrome hurls her scythe back at her, stabbing her in the chest. Not only that, he uses the opportunity to close the distance between them. Before she can react, Chrome delivers a crushing punch at point-blank range, sending her flying. The impact leaves her momentarily dazed. Chrome doesn't relent, pressing his advantage to end the fight as quickly as possible. He knows the longer this drags on, the more lives will be lost in the town. As Chrome and the white-haired woman clash, their battle initially appears evenly matched. But Chrome's monstrous strength and tactical precision quickly shift the tide in his favor. In a brutal move, he severs one of her arms, and without hesitation, he delivers a massive slash that slices her body in half. Even with her immortality skill, such catastrophic damage is beyond her ability to recover. Despite her grievous injuries, she refuses to surrender. With only half a body and one arm, she makes a final, desperate attempt to bring Chrome down with her. But Chrome swiftly ends her attempt by slamming her into the ground with a force that leaves no doubt of her defeat. This seems to have done the trick. As her life fades, she spitefully tells Chrome that no one will ever love him because of his monstrous form. Yet Chrome knows this to be false, as Shelley's care for him is proof enough. Her death brings Chrome a significant reward. The battle grants him a massive amount of experience, enough to level him up twice, bringing him to level 53. However, his task is not yet complete. Arthur, having witnessed Chrome's monstrous form, poses a potential risk. Chrome knows he cannot leave things as they are. Using his Soul Eater skill, Chrome delves into Arthur's memories. Without hesitation, he begins altering them, carefully erasing every detail related to himself. He removes all traces of their encounters, from their first meeting to the present moment. Chrome reshapes Arthur's memories to give him a chance at regaining his sanity, free from the burden of guilt that had consumed him. Though Chrome's edits erase the specifics, Arthur is left with a lingering sense of guilt, a shadow of the pain he once carried, similar to a phantom pain. Even without knowing why, Arthur apologizes profusely, his subconscious torment refusing to fully dissipate. Chrome observes this but feels no regret. Arthur's actions, while driven by desperation, had caused irreversible harm. Now, Chrome ensures Arthur has a chance to move on, handing him over to a passing adventurer before departing. With Arthur's chapter behind him, Chrome turns his focus to the ongoing siege. The town is still under attack, and he has no time to dwell on the past. His path forward is clear: eliminate the remaining monsters and protect what's left of Rockdat. As Chrome approaches the chaos, the situation in Rockdat grows increasingly dire. The townsfolk are overwhelmed by the relentless onslaught of monsters. Furthermore, they are barely holding it together. The air is thick with despair as their defenses falter. Just when all hope seems lost, Chrome arrives like a beacon of light amidst the darkness. Without hesitation, Chrome dives into the fray. The monstrous wolves that had terrorized the town fall before him like leaves in a storm. Each strike is precise and devastating, and with every kill, Chrome absorbs their mana using his Dream Eater skill. His ability to sustain himself by draining his enemy's energy allows him to fight tirelessly. His strength is seemingly boundless. As the bodies of the defeated monsters pile up, the townsfolk watch in awe, unable to comprehend the sheer power of the stranger who has come to their aid. Among them, Arthur's former partner recognizes Chrome, but there's no time for personal revelations, as a new threat emerges: the dungeon boss. The towering Fenrir, a monstrous wolf of level 46, steps into view. Its presence alone is enough to send chills through the townsfolk. Chrome, however, remains unfazed. He calmly advises everyone to stay out of his way, explaining that their involvement would only hinder him. Though stunned by his boldness, they obey, retreating to safety. This battle is personal for Chrome. 10 years ago, he had been powerless to protect his family from monsters like these. But now, with his newfound strength, he is determined to rewrite the past by saving his hometown. The clash begins, and Chrome wastes no time. The Fenrir, though powerful, pales in comparison to the foes Chrome has faced before. This time, he is no longer the helpless child of a decade ago. He is a force to be reckoned with. The townsfolk watch in awe as Chrome takes on the dungeon boss alone. Each clash sends shockwaves through the battlefield, and it doesn't take long for the boss to realize it's outmatched. Sensing its impending doom, the Fenrir attempts to book it towards the exit. However, it has already fallen into Chrome's Phantom Domain expansion. The sheer weight of fear paralyzes the creature as if it were shackled by invisible chains. Seizing the opportunity, Chrome delivers a devastating slash, ending the Fenrir's reign of terror with a final, decisive blow. The beast collapses, lifeless, and Chrome feels the surge of victory as he levels up to 54. Cheers erupt from the townsfolk. Chrome, in their eyes, has become a living legend, his deeds forever etched into the town's history. Yet Chrome has no desire for fame or recognition. Instead, he instructs the townspeople to split up and handle the remaining monsters in town. This gives him the perfect opportunity to slip away unnoticed. Without wasting a moment, he heads back to where the white-haired woman's body lies. Upon reaching her corpse, Chrome begins a thorough investigation. His search leads him to the source of her power and animosity, a sinister magic stone. Moreover, it is the very same stone she had used to dominate the monsters, instilling fear and forcing them into submission. Furthermore, the stone contains traces of mana belonging to the red-haired man. The connection is undeniable, and it deepens the mystery of their motives. As dawn breaks, the battle is over. The town is battered and bruised with heavy casualties, but the survivors are determined to rebuild, and they begin picking up the pieces, driven by a newfound sense of hope. Meanwhile, the tale of Chrome's heroism spreads like wildfire. Whispers of his strength and bravery reach every corner of the town, igniting admiration and gratitude. Among those who hear the story is Kalmia. Realizing that the hero who saved them was none other than Chrome, she feels a sense of pride and relief. Her brother has finally become strong enough to protect them all, just as he had always vowed. Back in the capital, the situation is growing increasingly dire. The sudden appearance of a dungeon boss outside of Rockdat has left the authorities scrambling for answers. Not only was it an unexpected event, but the boss had massacred everyone in the watchtower, leaving the town vulnerable. The higher-ups quickly narrow it down to the red-haired man, and the situation takes a darker turn when they link it to a religious aspect, an unsettling revelation for many, especially Mira. As the meeting concludes, Mira approaches the captain, seeking clarity. The captain, taking a deep breath, begins to explain. The red-haired man is no stranger to them. He's been linked to numerous mysterious events over the years. In fact, no one even knows for sure if he exists in the way they understand it. Reports indicate that a red-haired man has been responsible for a series of catastrophic events. 100 years ago, the countryside was ravaged by mutant monsters, transformed by alchemy, all traceable back to him. This red-haired man is revealed to be none other than Viscount Eros, with red hair, a red birthmark across his face, and, most shockingly, he is over 100 years old. But the mystery doesn't end there. 300 years ago, a court mage was sentenced to death for cursing an entire town, and he bore similar features to the red-haired man. Even further back, 1,000 years ago, during the age when the gods blessed humanity with skills to fight monsters, disaster after disaster struck the world for 7 days, as a result to balance out the overwhelming blessings. Tornadoes, monster hordes, and volcanic eruptions ravaged the land. On the final day, a red monster, fiercer than anything the world had ever seen, emerged. It was speculated that this creature's birth marked the beginning of the red-haired man's existence, now known as Asher. This revelation paints Asher as the reincarnation of all that is unholy, and with his immortality, he has lived for over 1,000 years. His existence is a curse upon the world, and the realization of this makes him an even more terrifying figure. Meanwhile, Asher himself is furious. He had relied on Garrett, the white-haired woman, as one of his most powerful soldiers, a backup plan for the backup plan. Yet someone had managed to take her down, despite her immortality skill and high level. The bigger problem lies in the crystal she carried, containing Asher's blood. With it, they could trace him down and bring the full force of the country against him, a risk he cannot afford. In a moment of reflection, Asher thanks Count Mizdo for supporting his research, but also warns that there is someone he needs to deal with. The person who killed Garrett and could potentially ruin all of his plans. This person is none other than Chrome, the one who holds the crystal with Asher's blood. Asher realizes that if he doesn't act quickly, Chrome could bring his entire operation to ruin. With this, the stage is set for a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Will Chrome be able to trace the crystal back to Asher? Or will Asher get to him first and finish what he started? Only time will tell. One thing is certain though, this story is far from over.